So guys, this is Hello Africa, and there is Nigeria. And we're going to go all the way to Germany, which should be somewhere, because I see Liverpool. So I'm thinking, is it here? No, this is Finland.
I'm excited about this baby here, passport number 5. As you can tell, this is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Wo bin ich zu Hause, meine Heimat für Fremde. Simply put, where do I call home? My home country for foreigners. 50 countries on a budget. Why do I travel?
Und wir muss so viel Spaß haben wie ich. I doubt it. Schau mal doch selber.
So in celebration of the World Tourism Day 2020, I thought I would talk about why I travel, when I started traveling, how I travel, and how it's possible to afford travel, and why I think traveling does not have to be something you do when you have a lot of money.
Ein Schwein klein.
Also gut. So, Servus aus Queenstown. Wie man sieht, scheint die Sonne. Ich habe nicht erwartet, dass es so viel.
So for starters, I said 50 countries on a budget. Yes, I stumbled on a list. It's something called List Challenge a few years ago, where you can actually click on the flags of the countries where you've been. And thanks to my plan to travel for 24 months that I started last year in November, I've actually now traveled to 50 countries in the world.
So, let's look at it. Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Mali, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Gambia, Senegal. That's as far as I got. And now I am in Denmark, in Aalborg, and I'm hoping to go that way.
So how did I start traveling? Why do I travel? So to the question, why do I travel? I think it's about curiosity. It's about curiosity about objects, language, structures that symbolize a people and their culture. So for example, if you saw the red double-decker buses, you would think about London. If you saw the Eiffel Tower, you would think about Paris. If you saw the Festac mask, you would think about Nigeria or the Benin bronze. So they're objects that remind you of people and their culture. Or if you talk about the Iwogu artworks, then you think about the Igbo people, which I am, by the way, I'm Igbo. So I think for me, travel is my curiosity about culture, about the people, about the way they live. And it has always kind of like interested me, starting from flipping through encyclopedia at home, or watching Indiana Jones Adventure, or watching documentaries about places and stuff like that. That has always kind of like triggered something in me. How did I start traveling? When did I start traveling? I want to connect my travel to the first time I ever got a passport. My first passport was issued, if I'm not wrong, in February 2002.
If you look at the first 2 I started with, you can tell by the wear and tear that they've gone through quite a couple of controls. And I got the new one and I said I wanted to keep it, so they cut off the edges of this one. But let's see, so this was 2002, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62. It's got 62 stamps and visas in it. I use this to go a lot to Benin, Togo, Ghana, South Africa, then to Europe, and of course my permit was in here, and also a UK entry visa as well. So a lot of history in here.
The first time I traveled was to get a car. So maybe many of you don't know this, but like back in the days, if you wanted to get a good Tokumbo, a second-hand car, going to Cotonou was your best bet. So Benin Republic. So I needed to go there to get a car, the only car I've ever had in my life. I had been living in Lagos, and it was madness trying to get from Festac, where I was living, even a little bit behind Festac, to my workplace in Ikeja. So that was like crazy logistics, the different buses I had to take and the traffic and everything. So I had decided, okay, I'm gonna buy a car. So I went to Cotonou and got my car. And that was the first time I literally had the border crossing, the changing of currency, hearing another language other than one you could easily identify that it's a Nigerian language. There was something exciting about it, and just like eating their food, seeing what they're eating. I think that was like, wow. Even the journey from Enugu to Lagos alone, because I'm from the eastern part of Nigeria, that was already like, you know, getting on the night bus and waking up in Lagos. I think there is something about this geographically changing your location to be exposed to new stuff that kind of like, you know, make my eyes light up, and I'm excited about it. So that was my first international trip. And like I said, on that passport, I traveled quite a bit to Ghana, and my connection with Ghana was because I've always believed in kind of like, if it's possible, diversifying my means of income. So whilst I worked as a graphic artist, I sold MTN recharge cards. I actually sold business clothes sewn from woodine. And I loved the concept of woodine back then, that you had like a plain fabric and the patterned one that you could use to make business outfits. So I was doing that and selling as well. So I would go to Accra and buy the fabric and then get a tailor to sew it for me, and then I'd sell it to people. So that way I was traveling quite a bit by road to Accra, which I totally loved, because you could buy things from the street vendors, you would pass the different borders, and then the currency would change and the language would change, and oh God, that's something that, I don't know, it just has, there's a memory in my head, and I love road travel, I can't hide it. I do, however, remember when I had my first scare about traveling. That was when I decided to stay a few days in Togo before going to Accra. Oh my God. I think that was the first time I really realized that it's possible for someone to be African and not understand English, right? Because I stayed in a hotel, which is obviously not an African language, but spoken in a lot of African countries. I stayed in a hotel, and the receptionist didn't understand what I was saying. I think she understood French, I don't know, because I didn't speak any French, but she spoke more of a local dialect, a local language, and I was like, oh my God, how do I get my, you know, what I wanted to say across to her? It just wasn't working. It was too much of a headache. And you can imagine, we're talking 2003, so this was not the era of smartphones and Google Translate. Like, I totally winged it in South America, in Brazil, with Google Translate, where I was literally surprised that when you leave Sao Paulo and when you leave Rio de Janeiro, you're just about on your own because they don't speak English. So Google Translate, yeah. Today, yes, it worked, but then back in 2003, there was no Google Translate, and I don't even know if she really spoke French. So that freaked me out. So I was like, okay, I'm getting out of here. And the next day I went to Accra. And I really feel bad because I spent a couple of months traveling West Africa between January, so end of December, to March, and I skipped Togo and Benin again. I feel bad about that. I will go back because I really then want to travel properly in both these countries. So the thing about language and how you make yourself understood became quite apparent to me on that trip, and I totally like, oh my god, okay, just go to where people can understand me, for starters. And the next place I went on that passport within Africa was South Africa. That's the thing I love about travel. It exposes you to the opportunity of meeting different people, of having experiences you would never have had if you didn't do it. I flew to Joburg, but since I intended to do Joburg and Cape Town, that was 2004, I was going to take the bus from Joburg to Cape Town. And I was like an 18-hour bus ride, but I had heard the landscape is amazing and I was up for it. I was at the bus stop, sitting down waiting, when I think one of the guys traveling noticed me, and he was like, oh my gosh, she looks kind of like lost. And we started talking, and it was during this conversation I found out he was from Zimbabwe, but his aunt was married to a Nigerian, an Igbo doctor, and he totally freaked out. I was like, oh my god, you have to go see them, you have to go stay with them, they would be so happy to have you. And he called them and they came and picked me up from the bus station. Like totally crazy. I spent my time in Cape Town with that family. Now I'm kind of like feeling bad because when I moved to Germany, my phone died and I lost their contact. So I don't know how to find them. I almost feel like taking all the pictures we took, because all my pictures in Cape Town are with them, and putting it somewhere on Facebook. It's like, does anybody know this family? I don't even remember their name. That's how bad I am. But we're talking about more than 16 years or 16 years now. So yeah, my memory is not that great. So, that's why I travel. The experiences, the possibility of getting really close to other people's culture, their food, the language, the sound of the places that I am. It inspires me. It just helps me see a different world, see a bigger and brighter picture. So, Bach, perfect setup, Sprite, Maradla, doesn't have to, please, let's do this. So, bonsoir from Abidjan in Ivory Coast. I am officially celebrating my last night in Ivory Coast. I arrived on the 27th after like a 6-hour bus ride from Takoradi in Ghana using STC. And I'm sitting here in Cook Africa, let's do that again. Cook Afrique, which is a restaurant in Abidjan in Angers, that's the neighborhood. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which specializes in Ivorian dishes. Like, look at this, that many delicacies and lovely stuff you can eat. It's pricey, but it's also really nice. Let me give you a little bit of view. This is like the down saloon, because you see how, oh, my food is coming. Awesome. Now, I didn't expect that to happen that quickly.
Your blood is black.
My what?
Your blood, your river.
My river? My food?
Yeah,
yes.
Your food.
Ah, okay, perfect. Aha. So I got the lamb and oh, awesome. So there you go, my food is here. Merci beaucoup, thank you.
What else? What else?
Water, no, I'm fine. Thank you. So this is my food. Soup de mouton and I check it. So there you go. Of course you're saying, that's expensive. Ha. Here's the point. There are two things that eat up your budget when you travel. One of them is accommodation. The second is transportation. And I try to save on both of this, and I've been doing it for years. And I don't save on the cultural aspect or the experience aspect, because I want that. That's why I'm traveling. So let's talk about accommodation. I think even before there was something known as couch surfing and it was official, I couch surfed a lot on my first year in Germany. I was like, I'll just, be at a festival, meet people, talk, and I'll tell them I was traveling. They'll be like, oh, do you want to stay in my place? I'm like, yeah, cool. And I'd end up staying in the place in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It was just crazy. I was traveling around Germany, come to the point, transportation, using the Schönes Wochenende ticket, which was like a ticket that cost back then, I don't know, 20, 30 euros, I don't remember, or even less. But it allowed you to travel Friday, Saturday, Sunday on the slow trains to anywhere in Germany, and that was like, woohoo. So if I met people at African festivals or markets and they're like, oh, but I live here, but you can come and stay with me, I'm like, I don't have any other plans, I'm coming. So that's more like the long-term travel. So of course you're like, I have a job, I can't do that. So we'll come back to how did I travel within a budget whilst having a full-time job. But if you don't have kind of like a full-time job, you want to travel out, meeting people, going to places that interest you and making that connection with other people that probably don't live in the city where you live is one of the things that has saved me a lot of money whilst visiting really expensive countries or cities. So for example, Sydney. 2012, I went to Sydney. I stayed with a very good friend, so I paid nothing in accommodation. Whilst just looking at food or water or whatever would be so expensive in Sydney, I was able to save on the accommodation, so it balanced that out. Another example is South America. Flying to South America and being there, that was such a huge thing for me because that was the farthest trip I had done since moving from Nigeria to Germany. And I stayed at a friend's place for 3 days. I had met a friend in Germany who was half Italian, half Venezuelan, and she said, you know what? You've never been to South America? Next time I'm going home, you're gonna come with me. I said, well, I wouldn't say no to that, because then I have a local guide. I have someone who knows the place, who can show me around, and I stayed in her family house. And I couldn't believe how similar Maracaibo or the houses in Maracaibo were like to places in Lagos or in Nigeria, with the ACs hanging out at the back of the house and the cars jam-packed with stuff, and and then them eating plantain and stuff that looked like akara. I was like, oh my god, this is like Lagos, but several thousand kilometers away. And you don't see the similarities, or you don't know it if you don't go there. So I save on accommodation by one, staying with friends that I meet over the course of time, traveling, staying somewhere, or staying in shared accommodations, so hostels. I got into hostels because I worked 1 year at one of the most famous hostels in Munich, the Eurojud Hotel, at the reception, and that introduced me to the concept of staying in hostels. And if I'm not staying in hostels, then since recently, Airbnb. I love Airbnb because it allows you to have also a very cultural experience. Most times I'm staying in a room in someone's apartment, so you get, the vibe, the local vibe as well. So that's how I save on accommodation. And how do I save on transportation? I choose usually the most efficient and cheapest means, meaning I travel quite a lot by road, but if I'm going to travel by road, I factor in the days that it's going to take me, which is why I prefer to travel for longer in a country or in a location than a few days. But if it's not avoidable, then I will plan for some inland flights. So for example, I went through Mexico 29 days, mainly using the ADO buses, and because I was going up north, I flew when I went to Chihuahua, but otherwise, most times I took the bus. And same thing goes for Brazil. I tried as much to use buses or only fly. Brazil is a huge country, so I did fly internally in Brazil, but I always look for the cheapest variation of getting from A to B. So for example, my trip within the West African countries was entirely by road. So literally speaking, I went from Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, all by road. And then I flew to Gambia, and then I flew to Senegal. But otherwise everything else was by road, which meant I was saving a lot of money. So it is possible to do, but you have to have time on your hand. And then you're saying, how are you doing that if you're working? Well, since November, I'm no longer working. I quit my job because I really wanted to, invest into my passion of traveling and experiencing this. So, I try to travel the cheapest means, meaning a lot by road. But I also love road travel because, first of all, it gets you interacting with locals, it gets you interacting with other travelers. You see more of the place where you're going to than if you were up in the air in a plane and just landed at the airport. It's more, it's more genuine and more authentic for me. But if flying is more efficient and the only way, I will do it. Because sometimes it is then faster if you have a time constraint, then I do it. Otherwise, I don't mind sitting in a train. I did, however, try a ferry, a cruise ship, because it worked with my trip going to the north of Norway. And I have to say, I don't really like it. It's nice, it was nice, but it's not for me. It's like you're confined in a space for a very long time. So staying days on a cruise ship, I don't think it's something I want to do, but it was okay for what I needed to do, and the services were great. But I think that's not something I would like do for weeks and be on it and just get off some hours and run around. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm into that, but it was interesting to have had this experience, and it served the purpose because I needed to get from A to B, and I took some of the days I needed to get there to spend on the ferry getting there, and I had a place to sleep. So I killed 2 birds with 1 stone. There again, like I said, it was efficient. The price of sleeping and transportation put together in one for 2 nights was very efficient, so it worked. So one other thing you can do to make travel affordable for you is to find a job that naturally involves travel. To be honest, a lot of the countries I visited in Europe at the beginning had to do with the fact that I had started my first IT job as a salesperson, IT salesperson, from 2007 to 2011, where I was representing the company in Eastern Europe, UK, Netherlands, so it meant I could travel for them and they paid the expenses. So a smart way to also fulfill your travel dreams without having to fund the bills is to find a job that involves travel, where the travel gets paid for. Of course, business travel will always be different than leisure traveling, but there's always the option of adding on a few days or a week before and stuff like that, and then even using the business trip to get to know the place and then go back privately. So those are my key successes of budget traveling, and don't be afraid to kind of like just, you know, experience something new, meet people. You don't need to be really rich. I did not leave Nigeria with a lot of money when I left. And like I said, the first year I was in Germany, I traveled a lot. And a lot of it was like unofficially couch surfing. Yes, there is a question of, is it dangerous? Have you met someone that made you feel uncomfortable? I have officially couch surfed 11 times in Brazil, in Argentina, in Hungary. I've had 4 people stay at my place. I've not had a situation where it felt awkward, only once in Netherlands. But 1 out of 11 times is not so bad, and it felt just awkward but not dangerous. So yeah, you don't have to do that. They're hostels and they're Airbnbs. So yeah, it is possible to feed your curiosity, to open your mind, and doing it on a budget. So road travel, staying with locals, or road share. Those are my tricks for traveling on a budget and maybe getting to see 50 countries in, well, 16 to 17 years. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let us continue to support local tourism. My 2 months across Nigeria, I really did visit a lot of local sites and also in the West African countries, because I think that West Africa has a lot of greenery, but people just don't know about it. So if you were like me and when you travel you like to see green places, then there is a lot in West Africa. It's not super developed, but you're gonna have lots of authentic, interesting experience, and I'm gonna show you how far I got before Rona got me. Thank you very much for watching. Yours truly, Liesl81.